Sit back and enjoy an hour of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. Japanese macaques entertain themselves by making snowballs. This behavior has been observed especially in groups that live in cold regions, where snow is part of their usual environment. It does not appear to have a clear practical function, but is interpreted as a form of play, suggesting that these primates have complex playful behaviors and the ability to learn socially by imitating other members of the group. An average elephant can hold and store 1 gallon of water in its trunk. This flexible structure works as a multifunctional tool that allows them to drink, shower, and pick up objects with great precision. In addition, the trunk contains thousands of muscles that give it extraordinary strength and control, making it one of the most impressive adaptations in the animal kingdom. According to the Guinness World Records, the largest female afro measures 7 inches in height, 8 inches in width, and 52 inches in circumference, and was achieved by Avon Dugas in New Orleans on October 4, 2010. Because Alaska has up to 20 hours of sunlight per day, they can grow gigantic produce, including cabbages weighing 137 pounds, melons weighing 64 pounds, and broccoli weighing 35 pounds. The long exposure to light during the summer allows plants to photosynthesize for more hours each day, which accelerates their growth. In addition, the cool temperatures help crops develop more slowly but steadily, favoring unusually large sizes. Scientists have discovered that there are actually 5 tastes that your tongue can recognize. They are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. Parmesan cheese is an example of umami. This taste is associated with compounds such as glutamate, naturally present in foods like ripe tomatoes, mushrooms, and cured meats, and it usually provides a deep and lasting sensation that enhances the overall flavor of dishes. When sanitary pads were first invented, they were held in place with a belt. These systems included adjustable straps that kept the pad in place before modern adhesives were introduced. Over time, the design evolved into more comfortable and discreet products, incorporating advanced absorbent materials and ergonomic shapes that significantly improved the experience and personal hygiene. If you've consumed coconut oil or coconut meat recently, there is a reasonable chance it was imported from Thailand. Thailand has been raising and training pig-tailed macaques to pick coconuts for about 400 years. In fact, a male monkey can collect an average of 1,600 coconuts per day, and a female can gather around 600. While a human can only collect about 80 at most per day. People throw approximately $4.5 million into fountains and wishing wells every year. In many places, these coins are not wasted, as they are often collected and used for charitable causes or maintenance of public spaces. Some famous fountains gather large amounts daily, turning a symbolic tradition into a real source of support for different causes. Amazonian butterflies drink turtle tears to obtain mineral sodium from them. This behavior, known as lacrophagy, is also observed in other animals that seek scarce minerals in their environment. In the rainforest, where sodium is limited, these butterflies obtain essential nutrients by landing on the turtle's eyes without harming them, taking advantage of an uncommon but valuable source for their biological balance. 27 animals died on set during the filming of the Hobbit trilogy. This raised concern among animal rights organizations. These situations led to public criticism and calls to improve conditions and supervision in film productions, promoting greater attention to animal welfare in the industry. Each week, about 50 dogs and cats are transported from Houston to Colorado to avoid euthanasia. This type of transfer program connects overcrowded shelters with others where there is higher demand for adoption, significantly increasing the chances that these animals will find a home. Volunteers and organizations collaborate in the logistics, covering long distances to give them a second chance. There is an inverse color blindness test where only people who are colorblind can see what the hidden image is. These images use color combinations that blend together for most people, but that those with certain variations in color perception can distinguish more easily. This type of test is also used experimentally to study how different people process colors and differences in human vision. Boa constrictors have the ability to sense the heartbeats of their prey. If it detects a heartbeat, the snake will apply more pressure until it no longer feels one. This process occurs thanks to their high sensitivity to vibrations and direct contact with the prey's body. In addition, their technique is fast and efficient, as they adjust the pressure precisely, allowing them to immobilize their target in a short time without using more energy than necessary. Napoleon once removed the Mona Lisa from the Louvre so he could hang it on the wall of his bedroom. During his rule, access to works of art was more tied to power than to the public, and this painting by Leonardo da Vinci was displayed in private spaces before becoming a central piece of the museum. Tug of war was once an Olympic sport. It was part of the program of the modern Olympic Games from the late 19th century to the early 20th century, where teams from different countries competed to demonstrate their strength and coordination. Although it was later removed, it is still practiced in traditional events and local competitions, keeping alive a discipline that combines strategy, endurance, and teamwork. There is a golf course in Brisbane, Australia, with adult bull sharks living in the water hazards. These sharks became trapped in the lake after floods connected the course with nearby rivers, and they have managed to adapt to the freshwater environment. Over time, they became a local curiosity, and the place even implemented safety measures and signage for those who play near the water. It can take between 90 and 120 minutes just to boil an ostrich egg. This is due to its enormous size and the density of its shell, which is much thicker than that of a chicken egg. A single egg can equal several dozen regular eggs, so it also requires more time to cook evenly, especially if a fully cooked interior is desired. The first attempt to assassinate a president of the United States was carried out by Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter, when he fired at Andrew Jackson, but his weapon failed. The attack occurred in 1835, and surprisingly, both of the attacker's pistols failed at the moment of firing. Jackson was not injured and, according to accounts, even lunged at his attacker before he was restrained, making the incident one of the most unusual in American political history. 1 out of every 3,000 babies is born with a tooth. These are known as natal teeth, and in most cases, correspond to the lower incisors. Although they may surprise parents, they usually do not represent a serious problem, although they sometimes require medical supervision if they are loose or cause discomfort while feeding. In many cultures, their appearance has historically been seen as a special or unusual sign. There is a species of butterfly known as the 8998 butterfly. It is named for its markings, which astonishingly resemble the number 89 on one wing and the number 98 on the other. This curious pattern is best seen when it keeps its wings closed, showing a contrasting black and white design. It mainly inhabits jungles in Central and South America, where its camouflage helps it blend into the environment and go unnoticed by potential predators. Baby elephants suck their trunks for comfort, just like human babies suck their thumbs. This behavior appears from a very early age and is often observed when they are tired, nervous, or temporarily separated from their mother. It also helps them become familiar with controlling their trunk, a complex tool they will use to feed, communicate, and explore their environment throughout their lives. When a cat rubs its face on an object, it is not just scratching, it is actually leaving its own scent. Cats have glands located around the mouth, chin, sides of the face, neck, and ears. This is called marking. During the war in Afghanistan, when his team was ambushed, outnumbered, and under fire, British Corporal Sean Jones ordered his men to fix bayonets on their rifles and charge across 262 feet of open ground against Taliban forces. Incredibly, it worked. The enemy forces scattered, fleeing the fight due to the unexpected move. Samsung, the manufacturer of televisions, appliances, and of course mobile phones, started as a grocery store. It was founded in South Korea in 1938 as a small business that traded products such as dried fish, noodles, and other foods. Over time, the company diversified into sectors such as electronics, construction, and technology, eventually becoming one of the largest and most influential conglomerates in the world. It takes 17 muscles to smile and 43 to frown. A smile primarily activates muscles like the zygomaticus major, which lifts the corners of the mouth, while frowning involves more areas of the face, including the forehead and the brow. In addition, facial expressions not only communicate emotions, they also influence how others perceive them and can even affect one's own mood. Statistics from the American Cancer Society show that the cancer mortality rate in the United States has steadily declined over the past decades. Since its peak in 1991, mortality has dropped significantly thanks to advances in early detection, better treatments, and a reduction in risk factors such as smoking. By the early 2000s, millions of deaths were already estimated to have been avoided, and more recent updates raised that number to more than 3 million lives saved since 1991. Canada consumes the most donuts and has the highest number of donut shops per capita of any country in the world. This popularity is closely tied to coffee culture, where it is common to pair it with a donut in the daily routine. Chains like Tim Hortons have played a key role in this tradition, becoming common meeting points in many communities and reinforcing the habit across the country. Adding cold cream to your coffee actually keeps it hot for longer compared to black coffee alone. This happens because the cream reduces the rate at which heat escapes, forming a slight layer that limits evaporation on the surface. In addition, by lowering the initial temperature slightly, the difference with the environment is reduced, which makes subsequent cooling slower. A horse's eyes can move independently, giving it panoramic vision. Thanks to the lateral position of its eyes, it can observe almost its entire surroundings without turning its head, allowing it to detect potential threats quickly. This wide field of vision includes small blind spots just in front of its nose and behind its head, so it often moves its neck to better focus on what interests it. Coffea cherryeriana, discovered in 2008, is the first known coffee plant that does not contain caffeine. This species, native to Central Africa, has sparked interest in the industry due to the possibility of producing naturally decaffeinated coffee without chemical processes. Although it is not cultivated on a large scale, its study could influence future varieties and cultivation methods aimed at new consumption profiles. In the 1950s, psychologist Frederick Wortham published the book Seduction of the Innocent, in which he analyzed the impact of comic books on young people and expressed controversial opinions about popular characters such as Batman, Robin, and Superman. His ideas generated intense debate at the time and contributed to changes in the comic industry, such as the creation of content regulation codes. In Jupiter, Florida, a man threw a live alligator through the drive-through window of a Wendy's after the cashier handed him his drink. He admitted to picking up the 3-foot 6-inch-long alligator from the side of the road and was charged with aggravated assault, illegal possession, and transport of an alligator. Japan now has retirement homes for elderly dogs so they can receive the love and proper care they need in their final years. These centers offer specialized attention, with staff trained in animal health, gentle therapies, and constant monitoring. In many cases, they also provide rehabilitation services and adapted activities to maintain mobility and well-being, reflecting how aging pets have become a priority within the country's care culture. In 1936, the founder of Adidas, in an attempt to market his shoes, drove to the Olympics and persuaded American sprinter Jesse Owens to wear them. After Owens won 4 medals, letters arrived from other national teams around the world interested in buying his shoes. By World War II, they were selling 200,000 pairs per year. Mosquitoes survive the impact of raindrops by using a Zen approach of non-resistance. Instead of opposing the force of impact, their low weight causes them to move with the drop rather than being crushed, reducing the damage. In addition, their wings and reaction ability allow them to stabilize quickly after contact, helping them continue flying even in rainy conditions. There is an aromatic cup that tricks your brain into believing that plain water is actually flavored with citrus, apples, berries, peaches, or cola. The invention, called Right Cup, was launched on Indiegogo in early 2016 with the hope that people would drink more water if it had a more exciting flavor. There was a newborn baby who was abandoned in a forest in Kenya for 2 days in the year 2005, who was rescued by a stray dog. She carried the baby to her own litter of puppies. Rabbits eat their own feces every day. They produce a special type of feces called cecotropes, or night droppings, which are rich in nutrients and leave the body like normal feces, but are slightly different. They can then be safely consumed again by the rabbit so that important nutrients can be reabsorbed. Elephant can die of a broken heart. If its partner dies, it may refuse to eat or lie down, shedding tears until it dies of starvation. Mourning behaviors have been observed in herds, such as staying near the remains or returning to the site for days. They may also show apathy and isolation, which affects their health. Their strong social bonds and memory make these losses have a profound impact on their behavior and well-being. Spain offers citizenship to the descendants of those who came to the Americas to flee the Inquisition. This measure has been especially directed toward descendants of Sephardic Jews expelled in the 15th century, allowing them to apply for nationality under certain requirements. The process includes proof of origin, cultural ties, and in some cases, knowledge of the language, as a way of recognizing a historical chapter and addressing its consequences. Throughout its life, an oyster changes from male to female and back several times. This process depends on factors such as age, size, and environmental conditions, allowing them to adapt to maximize reproductive success. In many cases, they begin as males, and as they grow and accumulate more resources, they become females, since producing eggs requires more energy, making this change especially advantageous. Novice climbers are not allowed to climb Mount Everest, according to the Assistant Secretary of Nepal's Ministry of Tourism. To qualify to climb it, one must have reached the summit of at least one 4-mile-high mountain in their lifetime. The pineberry is a white strawberry that tastes like pineapple. Its pale color with red seeds makes it easy to distinguish, and its sweet flavor with tropical notes makes it very striking. It is mainly grown in Europe and some areas of America, and although it is less common than the traditional strawberry, it has gained popularity in specialty markets for its unique appearance and different flavor profile. The mineral jadarite, discovered in a Serbian mine, has the same chemical composition as kryptonite described in Superman movies. Its formula matches the one shown in fiction, although in reality it does not glow green or have supernatural effects. The discovery drew attention precisely because of this coincidence, becoming a scientific curiosity that unexpectedly connects the real world with popular culture. The only domestic animal not mentioned in the Bible is the cat. In the texts, animals such as sheep, goats, dogs, and donkeys frequently appear, reflecting their importance in everyday life at the time. Cats, although already known in nearby regions such as ancient Egypt, were not a central part of the cultures that gave rise to these writings, which explains their absence in the narratives. According to National Geographic, the Beelzebufo frog, or devil frog, may have been the largest frog that ever existed. These extinct amphibians, about the size of a beach ball, grew up to nearly 1.5 feet long and weighed approximately 10 pounds. Michael Jordan now earns more money each year than he earned in salary during his entire 15-year career in the NBA. Elle King, known for the song X's and O's, is the daughter of actor Rob Schneider. Although she grew up in a family connected to entertainment, she built her music career with her own style that blends rock, country, and blues, gaining recognition for her distinctive voice and her presence in the contemporary music scene. The only member of the band ZZ Top without a beard had the last name Beard. While his bandmates Billy Gibbons and Dusty Hill became world famous for their long beards, he maintained a cleaner look, or a short mustache, for years. The fear of clowns is called coulrophobia and has increased significantly over the past 20 years due to its representation in popular culture and the recent phenomenon of creepy clowns, where people have been dressing as clowns to scare others. Until 1992, it was not mandatory for electrical appliances in Great Britain to be sold with plugs at the end of their cords. Consumers often had to connect them themselves. In 1989, Disney forced 3 daycare centers to remove a mural of Mickey, Donald, and Goofy under threat of legal action. Montpelier, Vermont is the only state capital without a McDonald's. Despite being a capital, it is one of the smallest cities in that category in the United States, with a relatively small population compared to other capitals. Its size and focus on local businesses have influenced the absence of large chains, giving it a quieter and more distinctive atmosphere within the country. Frogs cannot swallow with their eyes open. When they close their eyes, they retract slightly into the head and help push the food down the throat. This mechanism allows them to swallow more efficiently, since they do not have teeth designed for chewing, but instead rely on internal movements to move food. Teratoma tumors can develop hair, teeth, organs, and limbs, and scientists do not fully understand why they form. They originate from germ cells capable of becoming different types of tissue, which explains the variety of structures that can appear. Although their appearance is striking, many teratomas are benign and can be effectively treated with medical intervention when necessary. This man is referred to only as PH. He has a neurological condition that causes his vision, touch, and hearing to be out of sync. He actually hears people speak before he sees their lips move and can hear his own voice before feeling the movements of his own jaw. Lizards can self-amputate their tails to protect themselves, and they grow back after just a few months. This mechanism, known as autotomy, allows them to distract predators while they escape, since the detached tail can continue moving for a while. The new tail usually has a simpler structure than the original, but it fulfills basic functions, such as balance and energy storage. In rural areas of China, hiring strippers to perform at funerals was a common practice in order to attract mourners. It was not until 2015 that it was finally banned. In ostriches, their powerful and long legs can cover from 10 to 16 feet in a single stride. Their legs can also be formidable weapons. In fact, An ostrich's kick can kill a human or a potential predator like a lion. These birds are also extremely fast, reaching high speeds when running, making them among the fastest on land. Their strength and speed are key for defense and escape in their natural environment. Dinosaurs often swallowed large rocks. These rocks stayed in their stomachs and helps them grind food. These stones, known as gastroliths, served a function similar to an internal grinder, facilitating the digestion of tough plants in herbivorous species. They have also been found in modern animals such as birds and some reptiles, suggesting that this mechanism has been an effective strategy for millions of years. Martha Stewart once dated Anthony Hopkins, but broke up with him after watching The Silence of the Lambs. She stated that she could not avoid associating Hopkins with the character Hannibal Lecter. Thousands of microscopic mites are living on your face right now. There are two species, Demodex folliculorum, which resides in your pores and hair follicles, and Demodex brevis, which settles deeper in the oily sebaceous glands of your face. The deepest lake in the world is Lake Baikal in Siberia. It is more than 5,380 feet deep and is also the freshwater lake with the greatest volume on Earth, containing nearly 20% of the world's unfrozen fresh water. In addition, it is one of the oldest lakes on the planet, with millions of years of age, and it hosts a great diversity of unique species that are not found anywhere else. Thousands of condoms were given to soldiers for D-Day. Most of them were used to keep their rifles dry. Unlike other planets that take their names from Greek mythology, the moons of Uranus are named after characters from the works of William Shakespeare. These include Umbriel, Cordelia, and Ariel. The tradition of naming them this way was established in the 19th century, also incorporating some references to poems by Alexander Pope, making Uranus unique in its naming system within the solar system. A kitchen faucet would need to be fully open for at least 45 years to match the amount of blood pumped by the heart in an average lifetime. The human heart beats thousands of times per day and moves enormous volumes of blood constantly, allowing oxygen and nutrients to be carried throughout the body. Over decades, this continuous work reflects the impressive endurance and efficiency of this vital organ. Vultures with GoPros and GPS trackers are used to find illegal dumping sites in Peru. These devices allow their routes to be tracked and help detect places where they tend to feed, which helps identify areas with poorly managed waste. The strategy takes advantage of the natural behavior of these scavenger birds and has become an innovative tool to monitor environmental impact in areas that are difficult to supervise directly. Like fingerprints, each person's tongue print is different. Its surface has unique patterns of grooves, shape, and texture that can vary even between twins. Although it is not a common method, its use in biometric identification systems has been explored, since the tongue is an organ protected inside the body and less exposed to damage or external changes than other physical features. The sea anemone looks like a beautiful flower, but it is actually a marine creature that uses tentacles loaded with venom to stab passing victims with a paralyzing neurotoxin, leaving them defenseless. These tentacles are covered with specialized cells called nematocysts, which activate at the slightest contact. Some species also maintain symbiotic relationships with fish, such as clownfish, which can live among their tentacles without being harmed, gaining protection in exchange for cleaning and food. The average person blinks about 12 times per minute. That is about 10,000 blinks on average per day. This movement helps keep the eyes lubricated, remove particles, and protect the surface of the eye. Interestingly, the frequency can decrease when we are focused, such as when using screens, which can cause dry eyes and the need to blink more deliberately. The largest hidden Mickey Mouse is in Mickey's Forest, a 60-acre forest near Walt Disney World that contains more than 50,000 pine trees. Our eyes are always the same size from birth, but our noses and ears never stop growing. In reality, the eyes grow a little during childhood and then stabilize, while the nose and ears change over time due to cartilage elasticity and the effects of aging. This makes these parts of the face appear larger over the years compared to the rest of the face. The indigenous Sami people of Norway have the tradition of castrating reindeer with their teeth. The University of Southern Queensland found that facial hair can block up to 95% of the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays. That helps a lot in protecting you from cancer. Look at that, so much protection. The word prolly, the informal pronunciation of probably, originated in the 1940s. Large dogs age faster and die younger than small dogs, and scientists are still not sure why this happens. The father of actress Candice Bergen left $10,000 to his ventriloquist dummy and zero to her. He said the dummy had been his constant companion, from whom he had never been separated, not even for a single day. The dummy even had its own bedroom. If your parents or grandparents have a history of multiple cavities or dentures at an early age, you have a higher risk of the same due to genetics. Factors such as enamel composition, tooth shape, and saliva production can be inherited and affect oral health. Even so, habits such as good dental hygiene, regular checkups, and a balanced diet can make a significant difference in prevention. Russian criminals used to tattoo images of Lenin and Stalin on themselves because there was a common belief that communist firing squads were not allowed to shoot at an image of their leaders. In 1723, French naval officer Gabriel de Clieu carried a single coffee plant from France to Martinique, a Caribbean island where it spread and gave rise to 18 million trees in 50 years. Eventually, those trees reached South and Central America. The blue whale is the largest creature to have ever lived on Earth. Its tongue alone can weigh as much as an elephant, and its heart as much as a car. It can reach lengths greater than 98 feet and feeds almost exclusively on tiny krill, filtering enormous amounts of water with its baleen. Despite its size, its diet is based on very small organisms, making it an impressive example of efficiency in nature. In Beijing, there was a restaurant called Guli Shuang that offered a very unusual menu based on ingredients that are not common in traditional cuisine. According to new research published in the journal Computers and Human Behavior, the act of phubbing, or phone snubbing, is a very real epidemic in the United States. Phubbing is the act of ignoring someone in a social situation by looking at your phone instead of paying attention to them, and it can damage your relationships and even lead to severe depression and lower life satisfaction. Coral is actually an animal, not a plant. It is made up of colonies of small organisms called polyps, which live in calcium structures that they produce themselves. These animals maintain a symbiotic relationship with microscopic algae that provide them with energy through sunlight, which explains why reefs are usually found in clear, shallow waters. Mexican jumping beans get their movement from a moth larva inside the pod that writhes when it is suddenly heated. This movement is a response to heat, as the larva attempts to move toward cooler areas inside the capsule. The phenomenon is usually observed on sunny days when the ground becomes warm. The first known scissors appeared in ancient Egypt around 1500 before Christ, where simple single-piece metal designs were used. Later, the Romans developed a model more similar to the modern one, with two crossing blades and a central pivot. Gabe Balfour from Cortez, Colorado, built the doggone vacuum truck. It is used to suck prairie dogs out of their burrows. The 2011 Japan earthquake was so powerful that it changed the Earth's rotation on its axis and shortened the 24-hour day we know by 1.8 milliseconds. The blue whale is one of the loudest animals on the planet. They produce a series of pulses, grunts, and moans, and under good conditions, they can be heard up to 1,000 miles away. These low-frequency sounds travel long distances through the ocean and are mainly used to communicate and locate other individuals. However, increasing noise generated by human activities can interfere with these natural signals. Troll dolls were originally created in 1959 by Danish fisherman and woodcarver Thomas Dam. Dam could not afford a Christmas gift for his daughter Lila and decided to carve a doll from his own imagination. Other children in the Danish town of Gjol saw the troll doll and decided they wanted one. The rest is history. It is estimated that the Mexican drug cartel Caballeros Templarios earned $152 million per year growing and selling avocados. Rather than directly engaging in cultivation, these groups often intervene in the production and commercialization chain of avocados, a product with high international demand, especially in markets such as the United States. This situation has led to the so-called green gold becoming a sector vulnerable to pressure from organized crime in certain regions. Snakes and lizards stick out their tongues into the air to capture scent particles. In other words, they smell with their tongues. These particles are carried to the Jacobson's organ, located in the roof of the mouth, where they are analyzed to identify prey, predators, or potential mates. This system allows them to read the environment in a very precise way, even following invisible trails left on the ground or in the air. In the late 1990s, the Coca-Cola company began testing a vending machine that could automatically increase the prices of its drinks in hot weather, The idea was based on adjusting prices according to demand, since on hot days, people tend to buy more soft drinks. However, the proposal generated criticism for being considered unfair, which led the company to not implement the system on a large scale. Narwhal skin is an important source of vitamin C for the Inuit people. Ounce for ounce, there is almost as much vitamin C in narwhal skin as in an orange. This food, known as muktuk, is eaten raw or frozen and is an essential part of the traditional diet in Arctic regions, where fresh fruits are scarce. In addition to its nutritional value, it also has important cultural significance within Inuit communities. Dogs feel more vulnerable when they are defecating, so they seek protection from their owners, which often results in awkward stares. At that moment, they lower their guard and trust their surroundings, which is why they tend to make eye contact to make sure there is no danger nearby. This behavior is related to their survival instincts, inherited from their wild ancestors, where staying alert in vulnerable situations was essential. The part of the human body that heals the fastest is the tongue. This is due to the rich blood supply the tongue receives, which makes it capable of healing twice as fast as any other part of the body. On March 26, 1976, Queen Elizabeth sent her first email. The message was transmitted through ARPANET, the precursor to the modern internet. She is considered the first head of state to have used email. George Washington was so afraid of being buried alive that he asked his staff to wait 2 days after his death before burying him. This precaution was relatively common in his time, when there were no precise medical methods to confirm death. In his will, he left clear instructions about the waiting time, reflecting a widespread concern in the 18th century about avoiding mistakes in burials. Michael Jordan's number 23 was retired by the Miami Heat, even though he never played for them. The franchise made this decision in recognition of his impact on basketball and his global influence on the sport. It is an unusual case in the NBA, where retired numbers usually belong to players who were part of the team. Toto from The Wizard of Oz was paid $125 per week. This was more than what the actors who played the Munchkins were paid. The dog, whose real name was Terry, was professionally trained and already had experience in film before appearing in the movie. His good behavior on set and his ability to follow precise directions made him one of the most memorable characters in film history. The opposite of déjà vu is jamais vu. It is a French word that means never seen. It is a feeling or experience when a person knows or recognizes a situation, but still feels it as very unfamiliar and unknown. Our urge to breathe is not due to our need for oxygen, but because our body wants to get rid of carbon dioxide. Receptors in the brain and blood primarily detect the increase of this gas, which triggers the sensation of urgency to breathe. That is why, even if there is enough oxygen available, the buildup of carbon dioxide is what triggers the immediate need to inhale. The name Lego was an abbreviation of the two Danish words leg godt, which mean play well. The company was founded in Denmark in 1932 and began by manufacturing wooden toys before developing the famous plastic bricks. Over time, its building system became universal, allowing pieces from different eras and sets to be combined, which has contributed to its lasting success across several generations. Phil Collins' song Sussudio was based on a completely made-up word. When he could not think of real lyrics to complete the line, he simply kept it as the chorus and title. On August 4, 1922, all telephone lines were cut for 1 full minute in the United States and Canada in honor of the death of Alexander Graham Bell. Mountain Dew is an old slang term used to refer to illegal liquor. In mountainous regions of the United States, especially in the Appalachians, it was used to name illegally distilled alcohol known as moonshine. Decades later, the name was adopted by a soft drink that was originally created as a mixer for that type of liquor, before becoming a popular brand on its own. Recycling one aluminum can saves enough energy to run a television for 3 hours. This is because producing new aluminum from ore requires much more energy than reusing recycled material. In fact, recycling aluminum can save up to about 95% of the original energy, making it one of the most efficient materials to recycle. In 1938, Time magazine named Adolf Hitler Person of the Year. This recognition did not imply admiration, but rather highlighted the individual who had the most influence on world events at that time. That year was marked by rising tensions in Europe and political decisions that would change the course of history, which led to his impact being considered decisive on the international stage. David Hasselhoff has a 14-foot-tall replica of himself from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. The reality show The Voice has not yet created any new singing stars, but it has effectively revitalized the careers of its celebrity judges. Apple Computers was actually formed by three people, not two. Ronald Wayne was the third co-founder, but in less than a couple of weeks, he left the company. On April 12, 1976, Wayne sold his 10% share in the company for $800. Today, that stake in the company would be worth $62.93 billion. In 1989, a financial analyst from Philadelphia bought an old painting for $4 at a flea market in Adamstown, Pennsylvania, just because he liked the frame. However, hidden behind it was an original Declaration of Independence, which was sold at auction for $2.42 million. The animated film Sleeping Beauty took so long to make that Walt Disney became bored with it and redirected his energy toward creating Disneyland. In fact, the iconic Sleeping Beauty castle was built in the center of the park as promotion for the film's eventual debut only 4 years later. The Spider Calpurnia Harrison Fordy was named after the star of Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, as a thank you to Harrison Ford, who narrated a documentary for the Natural History Museum of London in 1994. The spider itself was discovered in 1993 and is very small, only about 0.2 inches long. Phytophotodermatitis, often referred to as margarita dermatitis or Lyme disease, should not be confused with Lyme disease with a Y. It is a toxic reaction that results from citric acid mixed with sunlight. It can cause second-degree burns and is very painful. The 15th President of the United States, James Buchanan, bought slaves with his own money in order to free them. Throughout his life, he acquired several enslaved people with the goal of granting them freedom, a practice that was also carried out by some of his contemporaries during that period. Pablo Escobar used to cheat at Monopoly games with his children, hiding extra money in advance near where he planned to sit. In the early 1900s, two of the largest rivers in the world, the Amazon and the Rio Negro, meet but do not mix and are visually distinct even though they occupy the same body of water. This is due to the different speeds, densities, and temperatures of the rivers. Jackie Chan is the highest-paid actor in Asia. His success does not only come from his action films, but also from his involvement in production, direction, and business deals. Throughout his career, he has built a global brand that combines film, entertainment, and business, which has allowed him to remain one of the most influential and profitable figures in the film industry in the region. The average human scalp has 100,000 hair follicles. The amounts can vary depending on genetic factors and hair color, with higher density being more common in people with lighter hair. Each follicle produces a hair that grows in cycles, alternating between growth, rest, and shedding phases, which explains why it is normal to lose dozens of hairs per day without it representing a problem. Tony Iommi began tuning his guitar lower after an accident that cut off the tips of 2 of his fingers, thus creating the signature sound of Black Sabbath. At 12 years old, Shia LaBeouf found an agent in the Yellow Pages and was accepted after pretending to be his own manager. The Starbucks logo in Saudi Arabia was temporarily modified in the early 2000s, showing only the crown of the siren instead of the full figure. This adaptation responded to local cultural sensitivities related to the representation of human figures. Over time, the brand returned to its original logo globally, including the siren, so today it uses the same image as in most countries. In the year 2007, Kanye West ordered a curry dish for dinner to be shipped from Wales in the United Kingdom to New York City at a cost of $3,900. The dish itself only cost £19. The rest was the shipping cost. Male platypuses have venomous spurs and can even sense electromagnetic fields, just like a fish. The venom is located in spurs on their hind legs and can cause intense pain, especially during mating season. In addition, their ability to detect electrical signals allows them to locate prey underwater, even with their eyes, ears, and nose closed, making them very efficient hunters. Coffee beans are not actually beans. They are fruit seeds. They come from inside the coffee cherry, a fruit that grows on tropical shrubs and, when ripe, usually has a deep red color. After harvesting, these seeds go through drying, fermentation, and roasting processes that develop their characteristic flavor, giving rise to the wide variety of aromatic profiles found in coffee around the world. Taco Bell secretly reduced the sodium content in 33 menu items by 33%, and no one noticed. A study published in a neuroscience journal found that anxiety disconnects the prefrontal cortex, a region of the brain that plays an important role in flexible decision-making. The Japanese company YKK manufactures approximately half of the zippers in the world. Check your genes. There is probably one there right now. Sir Isaac Newton predicted that the world would end in 2060. Throughout his life, the artist Vincent van Gogh sold exactly one painting, The Red Vineyard at Arles. The work was purchased in 1890 by the artist Anna Boch during an exhibition in Brussels. Although he had little commercial recognition in his time, today his paintings are among the most valued in the world, and his style deeply influenced the development of modern art, especially in the use of color and emotional expression. A study from the Cornell Food and Brand Lab with 497 diners showed that customers who ordered their dinner from an overweight server ordered significantly more food, were 4 times more likely to order dessert, and ordered 17% more alcohol. You can pay to go on expeditions with National Geographic to exotic places such as Antarctica. These trips usually include expert guides, scientists, and photographers who offer an educational experience in addition to tourism. The itineraries can range from wildlife observation to the study of unique ecosystems, allowing participants to closely experience remote environments that are normally inaccessible to most people. There is something called geographic tongue, which is actually a real health condition with a map-like characteristic on the tongue and, in some cases, throughout the mouth. It appears as irregular areas that change shape and location over time, creating that distinctive appearance. Although it can cause sensitivity to certain foods, it is generally harmless and is not related to infections, and it usually appears and disappears without the need for treatment. The word stewardesses is the longest word typed using only the left hand. This curiosity is often mentioned in relation to the QWERTY keyboard layout in English, where all its letters are located on that side. For this reason, it often appears in lists of linguistic and typing oddities, along with other striking words remembered more for how they are written than for their everyday meaning. The company Nestle acknowledged serious issues in its supply chain in Thailand related to inadequate labor practices in the fishing industry that supplied some of its products, such as the Fancy Feast brand. This case raised international concern and led the company to implement measures to improve oversight and promote fairer working conditions. Rosemary Kennedy, the older sister of John F. Kennedy, was lobotomized at the age of just 23. But the operation failed and left her permanently incapacitated. However, that event inspired her sister, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, to launch the Special Olympics. The pound key on your keyboard, or hashtag as you know it, is called an octothorpe. The name combines octo, for its 8 points, and thorpe, an old term whose exact origin is not entirely clear. Although for years it was mainly used in telephony, its popularity grew enormously with social media, where the symbol became a way to group topics, trends, and conversations around the world. NASA has extremely fast data connections that can reach tens or even hundreds of gigabits per second, far beyond a typical home connection. It uses advanced scientific networks, such as the Energy Sciences Network, designed to transfer massive volumes of information between research centers, satellites, and supercomputers around the world. These specialized networks allow large-scale data handling with great efficiency, which explains why their speeds can far exceed those of commercial internet. A tiger's tongue is so rough that it can lick flesh down to the bone. This is due to small structures called papillae, covered in keratin, which act like tiny hooks. These allow it to scrape meat from bones and also keep its fur clean by removing dirt and parasites, fulfilling a key dual function for its survival. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus retired all of its elephants from the show, starting on May 1, 2016. All of the elephants were sent to a reserve in Florida, where they can help with cancer research, since they have a special gene called P53 that helps fight this disease. All unmarked swans swimming in open waters in England legally belong to the British Crown, a tradition that dates back to the Middle Ages, when these birds were considered a luxury delicacy reserved for the nobility. Although they are no longer consumed today, the right still remains and is maintained mainly for symbolic and conservation purposes. Each year, an official census called swan upping is carried out on the River Thames to monitor their population and health. Bhutan, the most eco-friendly country in the world, once planted 108,000 trees to celebrate the birth of its new prince. On the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen, located inside a mountain, is the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, which houses more than 850,000 seed samples from around the world in case a global catastrophe occurs. In 1932, Winston Churchill received a prescription for alcohol to bypass American prohibition after being struck by a car in New York City. His doctor concluded that the solution for what afflicted the future prime minister was no less than 6 doses of alcohol with each meal, although he was allowed to consume even more if he wished. The phrase "bless you" after a sneeze comes from Pope Gregory VII in the 14th century, who asked that it be said after each sneeze to protect against the plague. In 1994, a man named Tony Cicoria was struck by lightning while standing next to a public payphone and was revived by a nurse who was waiting to use that same phone. Not long after his recovery, he noticed his head was filled with music, so he went out and bought a piano. He is now a successful composer and performer. The former apprentice of designer Alexander McQueen, Emma Sandham King, made the world's first Harris tweed suit designed for a horse to celebrate the Cheltenham Festival in 2016. It took her 4 weeks and more than 59 feet of tweed to complete the 3-piece suit, which was worn by a racehorse named Morstead. In 2015, Croatia launched a program called Fresh Start, which eliminated the debts of 60,000 low-income Croatians who had struggled to pay their bills. In an effort to boost consumer confidence and spending, the government, along with companies and banks, agreed to forgive up to 60,000 kunas, or $8,830 per individual. In the year 2002, actor Vin Diesel saved an entire family from a burning car accident. The incident occurred on a highway in Los Angeles, where the vehicle overturned and caught fire after a collision. The actor stopped, helped pull out the trapped passengers, including children, and brought them to safety before the fire spread, in a quick intervention that prevented greater consequences. Mickey Mouse has a brand recognition of 97%, which is higher than that of Santa Claus. This level of familiarity has been built over decades through movies, theme parks, and products around the world. Since his debut in 1928, the character has remained relevant, becoming one of the most recognizable symbols of global entertainment. You can actually correct your vision while you sleep. Orthokeratology lenses reshape your corneas overnight, so you do not need to wear corrective lenses while you are awake. When you remove them in the morning, you can see as clearly as you would with prescription lenses. Haagen-Dazs ice cream was founded in 1961 by Ruben and Rose Mattis, 2 Polish-Jewish immigrants in the Bronx, New York. They invented the Danish-sounding name as a tribute to Denmark's exemplary treatment of Jews during World War II and included a map outline of Denmark on the early labels. When it was first released, there was much debate about the identity of the unknown wizard on the back cover of the first edition of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Illustrator Thomas Taylor later revealed that he based it on his father after being told to draw a wizard to decorate the back cover. Super Mario was originally known as Jumpman. This name appeared in the arcade game Donkey Kong in 1981, where the character did not yet have his definitive identity. Later, he was renamed Mario, supposedly in honor of Mario Segale, a landlord associated with Nintendo's offices in the United States, and over time, he became one of the most recognized icons in video games. The term swan song comes from an ancient belief that a swan remains silent throughout its life until it sings a beautiful song just before dying. This idea dates back to ancient Greece, where philosophers like Plato mentioned it in their writings. Over time, the expression came to be used symbolically to describe a person's final memorable work or performance before retiring or passing away. Thousands of books available on Amazon have been generated using automated systems, especially in very specific categories such as technical reports, market analyses, dictionaries, and learning materials. This type of content is often created from databases and templates that allow books to be produced at large scale in a very short time. One of the pioneers of this approach is Philip M. Parker, a marketing professor who developed a system capable of generating publications in a matter of minutes. It is a social mistake in Russia to give your date a dozen roses. An odd number of flowers is given for a happy occasion and an even number for condolences. This tradition is deeply rooted and applies to all kinds of celebrations, from dates to birthdays. Odd numbers are associated with life and good fortune, so giving 3, 5, or 7 flowers is seen as an appropriate and thoughtful gesture in positive contexts. There is a humpback whale that has been tracked by Greenpeace since 2008 called Mr. Splashy Pants. The name came from an online vote to name a whale that would be followed as part of a campaign against commercial whaling. The initiative had strong public participation and helped raise global awareness about the protection of these marine species. Shark teeth are coated with fluoride, which acts like toothpaste and keeps the shark's mouth healthy and clean. Fish are friends, not food. This natural coating helps their teeth be more resistant to corrosion from saltwater, something uncommon in other animals. In addition, sharks constantly replace their teeth throughout their lives, allowing them to always maintain sharp and functional teeth for feeding effectively. The company's Second Chance Coffee in Illinois conducts FBI background checks to ensure that those seeking employment at the company have actually been in prison, because the company only hires former convicts. Replacement dates on bottled water are actually for the bottle, not the water it contains. Over time, the plastic can degrade and release small amounts of compounds that alter the taste and quality of the water, especially if it is exposed to heat or sunlight. That is why it is recommended to store it in cool places and consume it within a reasonable period to maintain optimal conditions. Approximately half of the koalas in Australia have chlamydia. In fact, their strain of koala chlamydia can also infect humans, so do not get too close to any koalas. To punish tree thieves who illegally cut down trees, some cities spray the trees with fox urine around Christmas time. It freezes on them and has no smell outdoors, but it would stink up your whole house if you brought it inside. The smell is apparently so strong that it makes your eyes water. Many Japanese bathrooms have a button that, when pressed, plays the sound of a flush to mask the sound of your own business. This system, known as otohime, was created to offer greater privacy and comfort to users. In addition to this feature, many toilets in Japan include advanced functions such as heated seats, adjustable water jets, and digital controls. A group of bears is called a sloth of bears. This term comes from English and is mainly used in formal contexts or linguistic curiosities, although in practice it is not common to see many bears gathered in large groups. Most species are solitary, except during mating season or when there is an abundance of food, such as in salmon fishing areas. Cockroaches are not the most resistant insect when it comes to surviving nuclear radiation. It has been shown that insects such as the flower beetle have greater resistance to nuclear radiation. This is partly due to their life cycles and the speed at which their cells divide, since organisms with slower cell division tends to be less vulnerable to this type of damage, giving them an advantage in extreme conditions. The Atlas butterfly defends itself by mimicking the appearance and behavior of a snake. Along with convincing wing patterns, the moth will drop to the ground when threatened and thrash around to resemble a writhing snake. The tips of its wings resemble a snake's head, reinforcing the deception against potential predators. In addition, it is one of the largest moths in the world, and its size helps make this illusion even more intimidating in its natural environment. The proboscis, or nose of a mosquito, has 47 sharp edges at its tip to help cut the skin and can even pierce protective clothing. The creator of The Big Bang Theory and Two and a Half Men, Chuck Lorre, wrote the theme song for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Before becoming one of the most successful television producers, he worked as a composer and participated in animation projects. This early stage of his career shows how he developed creative skills in different areas of entertainment before achieving success in television comedies. Spain cheated at the Summer Paralympic Games in 2000. 10 of the 12 players on its roster were encouraged to pretend they had an intellectual disability when in fact they had no such disability. Social anxiety disorder is the third most common mental disorder in the United States, just after depression and alcohol dependence. It usually begins in adolescence and can affect everyday activities such as public speaking or interacting with other people. Despite its frequency, many people do not seek help, even though effective treatments exist such as therapy and, in some cases, medication support. In some species of turtles, temperature determines whether the egg will become male or female. Lower temperatures produce a male, while higher temperatures produce a female. This phenomenon occurs during a critical stage of development inside the nest, and small variations can completely change the outcome. In several regions, rising environmental temperatures have led to mostly female births, which has prompted conservation programs that monitor and adjust incubation conditions to maintain population balance. Paula Abdul choreographed the piano scene in the movie Big. The medication Truvada has been shown to be highly effective in preventing HIV infection when used as pre-exposure prophylaxis, reaching protection rates above 90% in people who take it consistently. Its effectiveness has also been observed in intravenous drug users, although it largely depends on adherence to the treatment. In recent years, awareness and access have increased, but significant barriers still exist, such as lack of knowledge, stigma, and limited access in some regions. Japan was invaded by the powerful Mongol army twice, and on both occasions, they were saved by severe storms that crippled the Mongols. They called these storms kamikaze, or divine winds. These events occurred in the 13th century, during the invasion attempts ordered by Kublai Khan, and the storms destroyed much of the invading fleets. Over time, the term kamikaze became associated with the idea of divine protection, and centuries later, it was used again in a completely different context during World War II. Australian researchers at the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization discovered that drinking a cup of Asian pear juice before consuming alcohol resulted in fewer hangover symptoms, or reduced symptoms the next day. A penny doubled every day becomes more than $5 million in just 30 days. This growth is based on exponential accumulation, where the last days concentrate most of the money. For example, halfway through the period, only a small fraction of the total has been gathered, but in the final week, the figures increase dramatically. Zach Braff hit a minor for spraying fake paint on his Porsche as part of a prank on the show Punk'd. The scene was removed. A Greek stowaway cat once flew in the landing gear of an Airbus A321 from Athens to Zurich. It had a concussion and hypothermia, but incredibly survived. The letters PT in the PT Cruiser stand for personal transport. Michigan Judge Hugh Clark held himself in contempt after his own smartphone rang in court. In developing countries, beehive fences are used to deter elephants by taking advantage of their natural fear of bees. They have worked, reducing human-elephant conflicts by more than 80%. A study conducted in the year 2007 by the Baylor College of Medicine found that magnesium, not calcium, is the key to healthy bones. This mineral plays a role in bone formation and in the regulation of other essential nutrients, helping to maintain bone density and strength. That is why a balanced diet that includes both minerals is essential for long-term bone health. Icelanders consume more Coca-Cola per capita than any other nation. This habit has been maintained for decades and is part of everyday life, especially during gatherings and family meals. Even in winter, when temperatures are very low, consumption does not decrease. The drink arrived in the country in the mid-20th century and quickly became popular, adapting to the local lifestyle and becoming one of the most common options in stores and restaurants. In 1893, the first graduating class of New Mexico State University had one student. His name was Sam Steele, and he was murdered before graduation. Steven Tyler estimates that he spent at least $5 or $6 million on cocaine throughout his life. Over time, the Aerosmith singer managed to overcome his addiction problems and has spoken openly about his recovery process, using his experience to warn about the risks of substance use. The estimated net worth of Henry Ford would be $200 billion today if he were still alive. His fortune was based on the mass production of automobiles, especially with the Model T, which revolutionized the industry and reduced costs. In addition, he introduced innovative labor practices, such as higher wages, which boosted both productivity and consumption among his own workers. Political opponents of Andrew Jackson referred to him as a donkey, so he adopted the name and used it as a symbol of his campaign. Eventually, it would become the symbol of the entire Democratic Party in America. When Turkish photojournalist Osman Sagirli took this photo of a 4-year-old girl in Syria, she thought the camera was a weapon and raised her arms to surrender. The photo went viral after Palestine-based photojournalist Nadia Abu Shaban tweeted the image. After World War II, some stimulant substances came to be used for medical purposes, even as aids for weight loss. Over time, their health risks became better understood, which led to them being regulated and restricted in many countries by the 1970s. The creator of the Muppets, Jim Henson, believed in allowing a character to grow organically. His guiding philosophy was that each Muppet had a distinct personality. In fact, he believed it was the puppeteer's job to discover it. Pigeons actually produce milk to feed their young. This substance, known as crop milk, is produced in a part of the esophagus and is rich in proteins and fats, which helps the rapid growth of the chicks. Both the male and the female can produce it, something uncommon in the animal kingdom, and they regurgitate it directly to feed their young during their first days of life. According to veterinarian Joyce Harmon, horses can safely drink alcohol due to their enormous mass. However, this is not part of a common or recommended practice, since alcohol can affect their coordination, behavior, and digestive system. In veterinary contexts, any substance administered is carefully controlled, and the animal's well-being always depends on responsible handling supervised by professionals. In 1896, the world's first speeding ticket was issued to a British man who was driving at 4 times the speed limit. Walter Arnold, who was going 8 miles per hour in a 2 miles per hour zone, was caught by a police officer on a bicycle and fined 1 shilling, which was about 8 cents in United States currency. Most Americans are supposed to voluntarily declare and pay state taxes on goods purchased online from out-of-state sellers. Accountants and tax attorneys are among the only people who actually pay them. Papa Devada, a restaurant in Kochi, India, has placed a working refrigerator outside so customers can leave leftovers for other people in need. The legendary horror writer R.L. Stine began by writing comics for Bazooka Joe bubblegum under the pseudonym Jovial Bob Stein. The word canvas was derived from the Latin word cannabis. Canvas made from hemp was quite popular among artists who needed an inexpensive writing material until the late 18th century.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.